The next big task after feeding the white blood cells is empowering your kidneys. The kidneys are blocked. How do I know that? Kidneys should not be positive for heavy metals or malonic acid or any chemical. They should be open and not showing the presence of something in their tissues. What happens when you are using the Clorox bleached water is that because it contains malonic acid, the malonic acid blocks the kidneys. That's one of the toxic effects of malonic acid. Actually, it gets to the point of methylmalonate. The body manages to detoxify the first step in a fairly sick person. And then you're at the level of methylmalonate, and that blocks the kidneys. And that is how you get water holding and effusions to some extent. And in order to free the kidney up so that it can do its normal work, we have to take the methylmalonate out of the kidneys. And these two herbs can do that. These are known back in antiquity as being helpers for the kidneys, and this is how it works. So it's ginger root, which is, it comes in a bottle. Here it is. Ginger root and uva ursi. Those two can take the methylmalonate out of your kidneys in just a few days. Here it says 2 capsules 3 times a day for 5 days. Then all the action is done. The kidneys are open from methylmalonate. They're not open from heavy metals and other things yet. But this will be a great help. Stops right away the edema that you might have been getting, swollen legs and so on. And here is vitamin D3. This can interfere with ferrocyanide and the alkylating agents joining each other. So that's why the vitamin D3 is here. And again, if it comes in a bottle with a glass rubber-topped stopper, you need to transfer that to a regular dropper bottle of our own. Then we come to supplements that we call drops. This is a little more mysterious to everybody because it's new, and people on the whole have not been accustomed to taking homeopathic drops. But of course that's well over 100 years old, maybe even 200 years. So here we first of all have a set of 4 bottles that includes methylglyoxal, which is a regulator of cell division and is the brakes on cell division. And then we also have a copy of hypothalamus, which keeps you from feeling sick so easily, and also a substance that combines with cerium. It's hematoxylin, but it's in frequency form only, and it has considerable activity even though it isn't real. So this will specifically react with lanthanides and cerium. I think we should be using it in homeopathic form to make it maybe a little stronger. But we're just using it this way now because we're removing the cerium dentally. We're taking care of the plastic in teeth, and we're telling people to remove all the plastic that they've been wearing and also the rubber. And now, recently, rubber has invaded the clothing industry, so that we're buying rubberized clothing.
As in spandex and
yes.
That kind of thing?
Yes. And that is very harmful because it is full of cerium. And that seeps into our bodies, it absorbs into us very quickly.
Even from like socks, the elastic in socks?
Yes,
wow.
Yes. And then I recommend, since you might not find serviceable underwear, to turn over your
The elastic part.
The elastic part, so that you're getting 2 layers of cloth between your body and the rubber, at least 2 layers.
Wow.
And since you're washing every day, that's adequate.
And what about things like rubber shoes? There are lots of those on the market now.
People should not be touching rubber.
Rubber sandals and wow, flip-flops, all rubber.
All rubber.
Wow, and they go in between the toes where you sweat a lot.
Yes.
Doesn't make sense, huh?
No, it doesn't make sense.
Makes sense to get rid of those.
Yes, it does.
Good. Okay.
So we have a set here of individual, unusual items that are helpful for the program. Then the next is the kidney set and lymph, which is just a copy of the right and left kidneys and the right and left kidney white blood cells and the lymph. And that serves to clean them. Whenever you take the drops of an organ, it activates the white blood cells in that organ. You can see them going to work right away, and you can test for them. You see that they're starting to pick up all the things that have been left in that organ. It doesn't last very long, maybe only 15 minutes or so, but often if it's not too extreme, they're done by then. And you start out 6 times a day. The dose is always 6 drops, which you put right behind the teeth under your tongue, as if it was a homeopathic item. And you keep it there. You don't swallow it. You keep it there without eating in between or even talking a lot. Just let it absorb into your lymph system. And you watch the clock so that you give it at least a minute before you take your next bottle.
So you should hold it in your mouth a minute if you can.
Yes, because you'll get better absorption.
Because it absorbs
if you're
right
holding
into the
it a long
system.
time. Yes.
Okay.
And then just before you take your next bottle, you swallow, because if drops meet each other, they annihilate each other. The frequencies just knock each other out. So you have to be careful about that. Then you take, you help the kidneys clean the body by making bottles called heavy metal out of kidneys and lymph. So you have a set of about 5 bottles there. A whole set of heavy metals, which might be about 40 or 50 heavy metals, all together in a set called heavy metals. And you take that out of the right kidneys, left kidneys, right kidney WBCs, which is white blood cells, and left kidney white blood cells, and the lymph. And again, you take them one at a time, 1 minute apart, so you can go pretty fast.
So you've got 5 of those substances.
5 of those.
Okay.
And then come dyes out of the kidneys and lymph set, because this bleach, called Clorox bleach, it has a tremendous number of heavy metals and a tremendous number of azo dyes, things that were already removed from the food market in the 70s because it caused cancer.
Wow.
We're just drinking that. Of course, it wasn't meant to be added to the drinking water, but by the time you disinfect your water with charcoal in the form of a filter, and that has a residue of this in it, you contaminate all the water that goes through it. So it's mostly the fault of filters. I suppose they're all using the wrong bleach. Maybe it's regulated, maybe not, I don't know.
You've tested a lot of carbons,
Oh, yes.
a lot of filters,
Yes.
and you've got one now that works pretty well.
Well, I don't recommend filtering the water unless you're doing it our new way. Maybe I could talk about that as soon as we're
Sure.
done with this.
Yeah, excellent.
So here you take the dyes out bodily, namely harnessing the white blood cells to do it. And then you start taking the wheel bearing grease out, and at the same time motor oil will come out, and 3-in-1 oil. Those are probably all part of the production of this barnyard bleach, which we're drinking.
Hmm.
We shouldn't be drinking it. It's not the fault of the bleach.
Hmm.
Then there is a set called plastic and rubber out of kidneys, and very often that goes out with the wheel bearing grease. So we don't make an extra set unless we see a patient that is full of plastic and rubber, even after taking out their wheel bearing grease.
How do the homeopathic drops take the wheel bearing grease and the heavy
Our
metals out?
homeopathic, how do they take them out?
How do they take
Well, I've only researched one way. I looked at the white blood cells in the organ, and I could see that before you take the drops, they're empty. They're not working.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you fed them, they're not working
Mm-hmm.
because of other reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you take these drops, let's say dies out of kidneys, dies out of right kidney, you can take the right kidney white blood cells, check them, and you'll see that they're full of dyes, azo dyes.
So,
I have a set of azo dyes here. I can easily test to see if they're carrying them or not.
mm-hmm.
And they'll be at work for maybe 15 minutes before it all wears out and disappears. But
Phenomenal.
meanwhile, they have taken it to the kidneys and the bladder, so you can find it in the urine after
Mhm.
you have taken these drops. Maybe it does stimulate urination too, for some reason I don't understand. It has a nice little diuretic effect, and you will see the substances that you're supposed to take out are now present in the urine.
Wow.
So we give this very great emphasis, of course, and you need to take them carefully. You should not touch your lips with the dropper bottle, because you'll be picking up your own bacteria and then giving them back to
Recontaminating
yourself.
yourself. Yeah.
Right? You should see them drop, count the drops. The dose is always 6 drops, and you should not just squirt. After the first 2 days, you can go down to 3 times a day. But if you're very advanced, it would be a good idea to stay at the higher levels 6 times a day for another day.
Mm-hmm.
So the order is 6 times the first day, 6 times the second day, then 3 times, and 3 times the 4th day, and then you continue 3 times a day until we decide that maybe you're essentially done, only need to do it once a day, kind of to get after the rest of the body.
Hmm.